o'clock, isn't it? 9 o'clock on the dot.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, whatever it is.
Oh man, hold on.
No, what'd you do?
I'm way behind. Go live.
One job.
We are live on Instagram. Ain't that something?
We're still not live on YouTube.
Nope.
There
Really?
You go. It just
got
popped.
a zero.
Oh, we are.
We got a zero.
No, we are.
No eyeballs on us.
Why isn't it not letting me?
3 eyeballs. There we go.
Uh-oh.
It's building.
Turn it down.
Would you-
Turn it down.
It
All right,
Yeah, 2 of
is.
them are on the Instagram page.
Look at that. We got somebody in there. Well, there's a big lag on there. Somebody monitoring that. Okay. All right. We ready to rock and roll?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Do it.
here we go. Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast, episode 92. I'm Joey with Steel Blade Woodwork, joined by our co-host BJ with Byroms Custom Woodworks, Matt with Wacky Works, and Mr. Mustachio with the Wooden Mustache. What is going on?
Hello.
It's Sunday.
Howdy, howdy. It is.
Another
What's
show.
Yeah.
Another show closer to that 100, to that century mark. We're getting there. We're getting there. Look at that. Cool. We're live on Instagram for the first time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just realized I forgot to put my
All
YouTube
right.
in there.
Very boxy.
Oh yeah. Well,
And you're late now.
you had one
Maybe
job.
we should-
You had one job.
Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should do it sideways. We could be hot dog up and down.
Hot dog, hot dog, hot dog, hot diggity dog.
Armor hot dog.
Okay. Anyhow, what is going on today, guys? How are y'all doing? Nobody has
Not bad.
nothing.
It's been a day today. It's been a day.
I spent all day doing yard work. I am just
Uh,
burnt out
This is
Yeah,
a talking
between-
podcast, guys.
between mowing the yard.
Ah,
Yeah, of course. I picked the hottest day this week to break out the weed flamethrower. I can't even talk.
FOA. The FOA.
Flamethrower.
Billy Quickie.
Yeah. And yeah, it's hot. I don't have any hair on my shins anymore,
Oh.
so that was fun. But hey, we got rid of all the weeds and the rocks and everything. So
Well,
You
know if you can
burnt
see the flame,
rocks?
You're not, it's going
You
the wrong way.
burnt the rocks?
well, the weeds growing up through the rocks, I burned the weeds off.
Ah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I don't, With the
I
dogs
thought
and
you were going a
everything,
different
I
way with that.
The
yeah, I don't
flames
like
will-
doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's it called?
That-
Herbicides. Yeah.
He'll wait to do forwards.
Oh God. Please don't continue that through the whole show. Please don't.
Oh. I don't even know when we're gonna. We had snow. We had snow on the ground the past 2 mornings. It's been
Good
kind of weird.
grief.
We're back to winter.
Ooh,
Back
well.
to winter.
Mhm.
Oh, it was what's his name?
Bob.
Al. New York Woodworks. He showed snow the other day. I was like, what?
Yeah.
There's freaking snow on the ground.
Yeah.
April Fools,
course.
maybe.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just if you live in the north.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a week ago it was in the 30s here.
Yeah.
So that's like
It was
come on.
37 this morning here. So,
Yeah.
and I'm down here in Georgia.
Really?
Oh, it was beautiful,
And
55 degrees morning when I went out.
It was hot today. It's hot this morning.
It was 72 today for us, but it was
Oh, yeah, I
37
think-
this morning.
Probably in the upper 80s, lower 90s here.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's with us. I think it hit 88.
I think it's going to be a hot one this year.
And that's a little
Definitely.
taste of what we're fixing to get come
Yeah,
fixing
no.
to, come through what we're mid-April, coming into May. Man, year's going by
Yeah.
quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is-
Well,
You know, go ahead.
You want to start this bad boy off?
Let's do it.
All
I'm
right.
scared.
Let's
I
get
thought
into
we had
that
already
beautiful.
did.
Well, not the official segment. We're just talking.
Oh, it's
we're just
officially start
talking.
when
We're just
you go.
talking.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Let's
Ah.
get into that beautiful segment.
Okay.
Hopefully one day sponsored by a beautiful wood glue company.
There you
What
go. That'd
is
be awesome.
glue with you?
Gluing with you.
And we're going to
Mm.
start with, because we don't have a guest this week. So, of course, we got to start with the man, the myth, the face of the podcast. And I'm going to ask it again, like I always ask. How many boxes did you open this week that are woodworking or tool related?
Nah. My boss dog wood glue. I opened that box and used it today.
Oh, there you go.
I thought you opened
There
that
you go.
last week.
Did I open it last week?
You did.
Since
You
the
opened
last
it to show it
podcast,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I closed it back up, and then I
Okay.
reopened it again today. So it was Christmas
oh,
all
you
over
can't
again,
be.
and I
No,
actually used it.
no, you
No,
can't
no,
be recycling
yes, it
reopens. No,
I opened
no,
it,
no.
but then I closed it so I could open it again.
Oh, that sander.
Boxes.
Sander right there.
Oh,
That-
I
I
opened.
opened that one today. That's the 125 ETS EC 125. I had gotten it and I hadn't used it yet. So there you go. Right there. I used it.
Nice.
So,
There might be a little dust on the box.
there actually is, Matt. You know, you're trying to, but let's move on since I gotta anyhow. I am working on this project behind me. So the top is one top now, and I'm going through the grit, sanding it, and I'll be probably gonna stain it. I think I'm gonna stain it a dark color. I don't know why, but that's just the way I want it to look. Just a
Okay.
darker, kind of like a mahogany or something. We'll see.
I like it.
But I've been working on that, trying to get this knocked out. So once I receive my bamboo, the new one. Speaking of that, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but did y'all see the price hikes on them?
Yeah.
Whew. They went up. They went up.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at that last night. Anyhow, I'm trying to get this ready so when that gets here, I'll have a place to put it and shoot a YouTube video on that. So I've been working on that, trying to finish this office. You can see all the mess behind me. I know at some time it'll be all picked up and look all nice and neat, and we'll get it underway, get that laser going again. So that's what I've been working on this week whenever I have a chance to work on it. So yeah. What about you, Mustache? What you got going on? What's glue with you,
let's
bud?
see.
What's glue with you?
So I printed the AMS riser for my P1S. It's pretty slick. I gotta say. It's the one with the two drawers, and you can take the glass top and slide that in so you can vent. There's a little slot for your PEI sheets. It's pretty handy. So I printed that. Well, I printed that like a week or two ago. That was a long print, by the way. It was 80 to 100 hours. I want to say, with like 6 or 8 plates or something. But I finally put that all together, and out in the shop, I don't remember what my update was last week. I don't remember if I had moved the miter saw yet. But the miter saw and the rail for the side, the support rail on the side of it, those have been moved to the other side of the shop, and I got 5 of my lumber rails, holders, whatever
The
they
racks.
are.
The racks.
Yeah, the racks. I got those hung, and now I can finally start putting lumber under there and get it up off the floor and actually move around. I'm kind of doing this weird walk through a sea of stuff all over the floor. It's great. It's great going out in the shop right now. So getting all that stuff up on the getting all the lumber put away. That will be the big step. And I also got the miter saw from the miter saw Dustport from, oh boy. Yeah. We're just gonna move on. What about you, Matt? What's gluing you?
Well,
I'm sorry, bud. See what happens when you procrastinate so long, and then you got this line of stuff to do.
Yep.
You just forget of all the stuff you've done. You know, that's what happens.
what have I done this week? A lot of stuff at work, at the jobby job. We're always constantly coming up with stuff. I actually built a trailer at the jobby job this week that is temperature controlled to be able to stay at 72 plus or minus 3 degrees for work. So we got that taken care of. It's all did all the electrical insulation and all the components. I'm waiting on one more component and it's ready to go out, which is a min-max thermometer, and then it's ready to go out. But that's, at work. Here I did some shelves that are over here. Can't really see them, they're up high. That I did for putting some more of my collectibles up. And then my father came in and I took him fishing this weekend. So I hadn't been fishing in about 10 years. And so I had some maintenance to do to my bait casters. And that was a little bit of a lube job there. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm still using bait casters. What, you don't use bait casters?
Open face, baby.
Can't stand it.
Oh,
Can't stand. I love my bait casters.
and I'll rock a bait caster every once in a while, but I prefer my open face reels.
Yeah. I mean, each his own. If I'm using if I'm using open face, it's more for if I'm running like a Carolina rig or a Texas rig or something like that, but not for spinner bait. I'm using my bait caster more than anything. So but yeah, I had some maintenance to do to those. And that was pretty much, in fact, all that redness that you see on my face. We were out there all morning, caught some fish. It was a good day. I think the smallest thing we caught was 3.5 pound bass, and then from everything above that was about 5.5. So I only caught one fish, but honestly, I was more concerned about making sure he had a good time, since he drove all the way up from Myrtle Beach to go fishing. So
Wow.
got him fishing, and he caught 4. He landed 4 good ones. Like I said, 3.5 to 5.5, something like that. Pound bass. Had a good time.
5
What about you, BJ?
Just real quick before you start,
You good?
everybody that's watching on Instagram, just know that this is our first time streaming. We're going to try to get somebody over there to moderate. We don't see y'all's comments. We are watching it we've got some phones on trying to watch it. Just know that there's probably like a 10 to 15 second delay. So just bear with us. That's the way it is streaming from StreamYard to Instagram. But just so you know, I think JR was going to check that out and try to keep us informed with that. But anyhow, go ahead, BJ. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, you're good. So my week, work. Yeah. I did finally get the measurements off for the dust collection stuff. So might be another upgrade for the dust collection. So might be going to the snap together or clamp together piping on the dust collection, redo the entire setup. We'll see. I don't know. It really depends on.
Did Mr. Benz influence you last week?
It
sounds like he did.
Well, when we were talking about the experiment, and that's kind of how I'm going into it. So I went into it with this company to talking to them about, here's the experiment that I'm wanting to test to see how much of a difference. Like I don't want to change anything about my runs. I want to keep them identical to what they are now, and to see what the improvement is. You know, they weren't too excited about that because they know. He said after looking at what I've got, he's like, man, I could if we do this the right way, that's going to add even more efficiency. But it's also kind of a you can't compare apples to apples if you're changing everything. So, but yes, Jason did influence me a little bit.
Well, I mean, I would think that you'd be all right just changing it up somewhat. I mean, you're trying to make it more efficient. You're still going to show the
that's what they did finally. What we finally agreed on is that even just going from PVC, and we're going to stay 4-inch if we do this. He said there should be a noticeable difference, but the company I was talking to, they've never done any testing like that, so they don't even know the difference. So this was they like this idea because it's a data point that they can use to say, hey, just making this change can make this much of a difference. So they're getting the worksheet together to see all the data points they want and everything. So it's going to be a little bit of work on my end, but if it works out, it's going to be worth it. And then it also depends on what kind of cost we're talking, but that I'm not too worried about at this point. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. My system is working absolutely phenomenal right now. Other workshop stuff, I finally got the go ahead on the 7-foot walnut table that I got asked about a couple months ago. So went this weekend, went to a new hardwood dealer and picked up about 50 board foot of walnut, 2-inch thick. So some nice 8/4 boards. Did that and just kind of played around in the shop this weekend. Oh, so here's a fun one. And Matt, you might be a little bit of help on this one too. I got commissioned to cut 1-inch grooves in HDPE. So that's going to be fun. I've never cut HDPE.
It's not hard. It's easy. Nothing.
Yeah. And according to Bits and Bits, because I called them because they were the first ones that I found that has a 1-inch bullnose bit. He said it's just running a little bit slower. Yeah, you just kind of have to watch it. He said because there's a fine line between cutting chips and it melting. He said there's a very, very fine line. So just do that. And
so you got to have on the bottom. It needs to be rounded, or just needs to be straight? Because you're saying you're using a bull nose.
The bull or round nose or whatever. So yeah, it's because it's fitting rifle barrels. So they use it as trays in their shipping when they ship them off to the company that does all their coatings. And so that's what they clamp them in, and they do 1-inch to 1.2, 1.125-inch barrels, and that's nice. All that is.
It's not bad. Dave Gatton down there saying it cuts. It does cut like butter.
The only thing that I'm nervous about is it's going to be a dual side cut, so it's going to be like 2-inch thick HDPE. I'm fine with holding it when I do the top cut. It's when I flip it over and do the opposite side, it's the work holding that way. So that's kind of where I'm a little nervous about. Just because one, I can't put screws in it, and then double-sided tape's not going to work as well. So I just got to figure out a good way to hold it, and it's going to fit.
Why are you worried? Why are you worried? I'm not understanding. Once you flip
because the way he's going to cut it is he's cutting it down one side, and then he's got to flip it over and make that same cut in the same location on the other side. Yeah. So the grooves are on the same side. So it's basically it goes high and it goes into low, high into low.
Yeah.
And so to make that cut, and it's a longer piece, it's going to lift up on them.
Yeah.
Could you make a frame? Could you
That's
make a
what I'm-
frame?
Well, but
And
that's a 2-inch. That's a 2-inch piece, man. That stuff's not going to lift like you think. I don't believe.
I don't
That's some
think it's
pretty
going to
heavy-duty
lift.
stuff.
I'm more worried about it moving. And the problem is because the sheets that they're bringing me are exactly the size of my wasteboard. So I'm not going to be able to
Ugh.
use any of my clamping on my wasteboard. I'm going to have to do something else. And so I don't know if you can see that. That's what I'm cutting.
I got you. That's a
You see
side
where it's-
profile of it,
Yeah.
right?
And I might, the ridges are going to be tall and wide enough. I might be able to use double-sided tape.
Would that
I don't
stick to HDP?
Hey, what about a flat piece of metal strap that can go from the side
the
down to attaching it?
the
You know what I
way
mean?
they
You
want it
understand what
cut,
I'm
the first cut on either end, on either side, is so close to the edge that you're not going to have a lot of work holding.
Got you.
What
And
if
I
you
run
use
that bit across it,
How thick is that piece?
about 2 inches thick.
So if it's 2 inches thick, you have enough room to basically that becomes a 2-inch by 2-inch square. And if
Yeah.
you used a pin, and I'm saying pin wrong, it's just a piece to go into it that with a flat piece coming down.
Yeah,
Basically, it looks like an L or a Z because the pin would be the top part of the Z comes straight down, and then it would be able to screw down to the table. And you did that on both ends because you're not cutting that piece. That allows for your cut. You could do those like every 6 inches or something like that. And yes, it's going to put a little puncture mark into the HDPE, but it's very minute.
yeah.
Just enough to hold it in place.
That's what I was trying to cut. That's exactly what I was trying to say. What he said. I just
Okay.
didn't explain it.
Yeah,
That's
just
what I
steal
was
steal
saying.
my
Yeah.
stuff. I got you, Joey. I
Yeah.
got you. You're just stealing my stuff. I
That's
got you.
fine.
You're-
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and I know I can talk to their machinists because they said they used to cut these in house. They just with their workload, they don't have the time to cut them in house anymore.
Yeah.
So if I can get in touch with their machinist, and now granted, he's probably cutting them on a Bridgeport or something like that. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. I mean, he's supposed to bring me enough.
I
scrap
mean,
where if I mess it up, it's not a big deal.
be a good project to, maybe Onefinity's listening to this and you can, get one of those vacuum tables and do a video on it. It's always that
You know what?
possibility.
I might reach out to Airweights and see.
There
I
you
think it
go.
would vacuum the one side, but how would it vacuum the other side with all
You'd have
those
to
gaps?
seal. You'd have to seal it. You'd have to seal it
Or
somehow.
tape or something. Yeah, with
Yeah.
tape or something. Yeah.
I'll send him a message tomorrow.
That'd solve all your problem.
I bet that. Yeah. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, that's what's going on in my shop.
That's
So,
it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Nothing else.
yeah. Oh, I did use my track saw to joint those 7-foot 2-inch thick walnut boards because I don't own a joiner. So yeah, that was fun. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we jump on into today's topic? I guess. What do you
Whoa,
got?
whoa!
We got some things.
Oh, see, I'm trying to
almighty. Here
See,
you go.
trying to
jump
mess
the
it up
gun
again.
on us.
I did that 2 weeks ago. Now it's your turn. Yeah. So
Yeah.
take
I
it
did it
away,
last week.
Mustachio. Yeah, you did. Well, you were too excited to talk to Jason.
That's right.
Take it away, Mr. Mustachio.
Alrighty, I would like to thank our patrons out there in the great, they're all United States. So we have Keith Drennan from Blackthorn Concepts, Scott Shirk from Willow Creek Lumber, Don Patterson from What's Next Woodworking. We thank you for your patronage. Patron?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
That'll work.
And if you would like to be in the Cool Kids Club, along with those three gentlemen, we have links on our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. Jump in, choose your tier, and yeah, we're going to start doing a after show next week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this will be your opportunity to come in and hang out with us for a little bit and probably do that for our patrons only. So, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to be definitely behind a paid wall because we can't make that public.
Yeah. So we'll be a little looser.
If you
Sorry.
want in the cool kids club, you gotta sign up.
Yeah.
Just
So,
know that it might be a little funny business going. Not funny business. I shouldn't say that. Might be
where
some
are we
choice
going?
words. in there.
It's gonna be
I'm
a little
telling you.
inside baseball.
There you go. A good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's a professional way to put it. Thank God for BJ. He keeps us on the track.
That's what y'all brought me in. That's what y'all brought me on here for, right?
Because we're
Yes.
crashing, burning, and he pulls us right back out. He puts fire out. There you go. All right, so let's jump into tonight's topic and talk about tools for beginners when you're getting into woodworking. What would be good options for you? I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to start it off.
So Joey's going to
And I'm going to say, even though we're probably no, hell no. But I'm after years and years of messing around, I'm going to recommend, and it's a little pricey, but I think in the long run, it will make it more enjoyable, and you can find them fairly reasonable, I think, because if you look at the amount of times you're going to be replacing one when you're trying to do stuff, and it would be the Festool 125 ETS 125. And that sander you can get, I just say get a good sander. That would be my top deal. Even if you're woodworking, you can still get them for about a couple of $100 on Recon. They're there all the time. And I just think good sander starting off would take a lot of frustration away. And I've been kicking that back and forth. You go with one of the big box store brands or just bite the bullet, because most of them now are probably $100 or $120 for a decent one.
Yeah.
And I just say go with that. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? Spending money on a good sander.
See, that's where I'm the complete opposite. When it comes to, like, if you're just starting out, you don't know for sure. And it could just, and that's the other thing. When we say you're just starting, like, are you truly going to this planning, I'm going to make a career out of this, I'm going to sell stuff, or it's, I want to be a hobby woodworker, or my wife has got a project for me, I need some tools to go do some home DIY projects. And I mean, the way I started out was garage sale Ryobi tools. Started cheap, $150 for a table saw, a bandsaw, and a miter saw. And if I didn't, if you do that and you decide, this is stupid, it's not for me, you're out $150 or whatever in today's prices. And so, I mean, that sander is a great sander. I've got it, but I also started with a Ryobi 5-inch sander that my dad gave me 20 years ago. That's what I used. And then it really turned into, as you're doing it, then it's, well, I'm building these big tables, and sanding with a 5-inch sander takes forever. Okay, let's upgrade to a 6-inch sander. And then that was, the Bosch, Rotex clone. And then it turns into, I want a really nice finish sander. Then that turns into the Festool.
But backing up, let me interrupt you there. But backing up,
okay.
Wouldn't you say, if you're going to start off, if it's an argument to that would be buying tools like that, and not saying that you got to go spend a fortune, but I'm just saying, would it add to the frustration that you're going to have with let's just say cheaper tools, not getting straight cuts, just frustrating you to the point to where you're just not going to want to do it, if you look at it from that angle?
But there's also that argument that if you're starting off with, I don't want to say cheap, crappy tools, because, you can get some cheap stuff that's pretty decent if you take the time to set it up and take the time to dial it in. The bandsaw that I had from Ryobi, it was a boat anchor. It was a piece of junk. But the table saw, it wasn't horrible. I mean, it would cut construction grade lumber. It would cut plywood. The circular saw that I had, and again, that was an old hand-me-down Craftsman circular saw. I learned a lot, and that it gives you that opportunity to learn how to use the tools and not just, jump into it with a $3,000 saw stop or something and be like, oh, I've got the most beautiful thing, perfect thing in the world. And it to me, it's more of that learning experience. It's that you learn how to compensate for bad or for cheaper tools. And so when you get the nicer tools, you've already got the skills developed. So
I would agree with what BJ says. And the reason I agree with that is because if you don't know what square is or how to make a square, do you start off with a square, making a line, and then making a cut and doing what you're supposed to do? Or do I start off with a $4,000, $7,000 laser and I start cutting everything out of it so I don't have to know how to do that stuff?
yeah.
At what expenditure are you going to be? So I understand what you're saying with the sander. Okay. I agree wholeheartedly that I went through trials and tribulations I went with my DeWalt, and then I went with a 3M, and then I finally ended up with the Festool, and the Festool was the better sander. Okay. But did I know that? I had to learn that. And the only reason you had to learn that is because, okay, I got scrap marks in it from running one with my DeWalt. So I bought the 3M. 3M's motor couldn't keep up with what I needed to do, but I was at a higher level at that point. I wasn't just sanding wood at that point. I'm now sanding a lot bigger objects.
Yeah.
And so starting off with a smaller sander to know that's the niche I want to get into, I think it's a better choice to start in with a cheaper sander. And I don't mean cheaper by going, I'm going to get a $5 sander. I'm saying that you're going to get a decent sander and you're going to use it. I still use my DeWalt to this day. Yeah. And I'm going to continue to use it because it's always not a Festool need. And that's just my thought process on it. So to say jump in with both feet into the middle of the deep end and you don't know how to swim, maybe you need to take a couple swimming lessons first before you do that. And that's my only thought on that.
Go ahead. Finish.
Go ahead. No. Go.
So, and I think we see, and nothing against any of our fellow YouTubers and any of our friends out there, but we see a lot of these big names in this world that have the fanciest tools, and you hear that old adage, oh, I could do that too if I had $50,000 worth of tools in my shop.
But go back to the beginning of their channel.
Yeah, I did it with $300 worth of tools in my shop.
Yeah,
and I've always kind of been of that mindset, and there's some people out there are like, nope, you got to have the latest and the greatest and this and this. It's like, no, you don't. Because how much are you going to do? Are you, and it also depends on what are you making. Are you making picture frames? Are you making small boxes? Are you making dining room tables? Are you making cabinetry? It's figuring out. Now, granted, if you got the money, if you got that, unlimited income or budget, and you want to go drop $40,000-$50,000 on a brand new workshop, hey, give me a shout. I'll give you links to all the tools that you can go buy. If you want to do that. But I think I appreciate the craft so much more knowing where I've come from and working with, seeing like what my dad used to use to do, remodeling a house and what other people have used over the years. And it's all basic, cheap, not cheap. I need to stop saying cheap, but just lower cost stuff. That's not, I don't think Festool should be anybody's starting point. Just like I don't believe Sawdust. For the most part, there's some people out there that I still believe that their first saw should be a Sawdust because they're one action away from.
I'm going to break it back in because I feel a little bit of attack here on this.
No, I'm not.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Knowing, because Matt brought up lasers and stuff, and that's not what I'm trying to get at with that comment. I want to know that if somebody's going to ask, or if they're wanting my opinion, being that I do know, like we all know, we've gone through it. What I'm going to suggest is the reason I said that sander would be to take a lot of frustration out. So it kind of went a different way with how I wanted y'all to take that. But hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
And I just, what I've gone through in my experience, if somebody's going to ask me, I'm going to say, look, yes, if you do have the budget, I should have clarified this. If you have the budget to take a lot of frustration in, because we all hate sanding. I will tell you, my hands, from the job my career that I've had, my hands go numb, and everybody's hands go numb, but mine tend to do it a lot quicker, just what I've had to do in my life. And that sander helps. It does. It makes it more enjoyable to a task that we all hate. Right. And it makes it makes you not hate it, so that's where I was kind of going with that. And just not meaning, I started off with the cheaper sanders, and they're not cheap. I don't want y'all to think that I'm some high and mighty guy over here because I have Festool, and that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm in the point in my hobby that I like to have it, right? And it makes it more enjoyable. But if you want to take some frustrations away, that's why I suggested that. Not saying that you need to go get it, but knowing what I know, that's what I would suggest.
And I'm not arguing that, because I agree with you. I think buying the Festool, sander, because that was my first, and that was my entry into the Festool club. I use it more than anything. Now, if I need to really get down and remove some finish or something, I'm breaking out my old Bosch, sander, because it, you put 6 grit sandpaper on that thing, and I mean, you'll smooth out a tree. It's awesome because it's just, like I said, it's just like the Rotex at over half the price of the Rotex. And that's the other thing to look at too. I think in a lot of cases, there's some really good bargain tools out there that do everything that the higher end tools do. Now, I will say, when it comes to sanding, I've used a lot of different sanders. I'm wearing one of those companies' shirts. I like their sanders. I love Festool. Just the ergonomics of the tools, of the sanders, and the way they work. But there's other stuff out there, like the Capex. I would love to have that miter saw. But my Metabo, 12-inch slider or whatever it is amazing. And I only paid $300 for it. Yeah, it took a little bit of dialing into it to get it nice. But I don't think. Go ahead.
So I'm going to apologize to you, Joey, if you feel attacked. Okay.
Yeah, and
so
me too. I was not.
I don't want to be a bully. Okay, or any other thing.
Not when we're live.
But but my question is, okay, and maybe I want the audience to know this, and I want to be very upfront. We put out a topic and we don't talk about it all week. We don't say a word to each other.
No,
we don't. All we do is we put a topic up, and and that's what we look for you guys. Give us a topic, we'll put it up. We discuss it to ourselves, and then this is where it first comes out. So, My thought process was when we put up this topic was, what are the basic utensils that you need to do to get started? What is the best thing that you can buy to make yourself a good woodworker? We use words, because those are hard. Good woodworker to start doing stuff. Okay. And I wasn't thinking high-end products. I was thinking low budget, what it is that we can get started. So that's
surprise.
Okay. So but my very first thing, and I just want to throw it out there, my very first thing was a combination square. A good combination square. I'm not saying you gotta go buy $1,000 combination square. I'm saying you go get a $25, $35 good combination square to get started. Make sure it's square. And if you don't know what square is, 3, 4, 5. And make sure that you have a that's right, bring a math into it, baby. But if you can have a good square and get your cut square, makes all the difference. All the difference. You won't believe how much easier it is to work with something when you're working with something that's square, easy to square up. All we're doing was building boxes. At the end of the day, we're building boxes, and if boxes aren't squares, it's not a box, it's parallelogram. Okay. So if that's my number one first thing that you should have is a good combination square.
I'd say a good combination square and a good speed square.
Well, you can use a combination square as a speed because I agree. I mean,
because I've cleaned up the ends of many a 2x4s with a circular saw and a speed square. You can do a lot with a circular saw. I can't talk.
Yeah, words are hard. Words are hard.
Yeah.
Today. It must be the sun.
Today.
Y'all were
It's
exposed to the sun a lot today.
Yeah.
Help me.
But yeah, good. And even a good straight edge.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be. Yes, what's my mind went like woodpeckers. They make phenomenal tools. They are so overpriced. And I've got a wall and a drawer full of woodpeckers tools. I've never paid full price for them, and majority of them I bought secondhand at garage sales. But I still go back to this 8-foot straight edge that I keep hanging on my wall when I need to cut something. If I need a good straight edge, because it's straight, it works. But yeah, those basic tools, and there I was looking in the chat. What is it? Mike is making stuff. And he's talking about a handsaw, a hand drill, and what a tape measure. And that's another thing that we can talk about is a quality, and that's the one thing I will say. If you're gonna buy it, do not cheap out on a tape measure.
Yes.
And I prefer any of the tape measures from the big box stores. I've never liked. My go-to is Fast Cap.
Yep.
I think they make the best tape measure on the market, in my opinion.
Well, I don't care who you buy it from. Okay, I don't care who you buy it from. Compare it.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, and I did a quick story about it one day because I couldn't believe the difference. I had bought 3 different tape measures in I don't know, it was a couple weeks, because when you get into the shop and you can't find the tape measure. But I had 3 different tape measures, 3 different companies, pulled them all together, and there was between one to the other was almost an inch difference within a foot measurement.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the tab. The tabs move differently. So make sure that you compare, because if you're using on this side of the shop, I'm like, oh, I'm using this tape measure. And I go to this side of the shop and it's different. All your measurements are wrong.
Yep. So, and that's the other thing. If you're doing a project, use either one tape measure for the entire project, or and I think it was you that said it. Rough cuts, tape measures, precision cuts, ruler.
Yep, that's right.
I have started doing that, and it makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does.
I mean, to the point where I'm laying a ruler, on my table saw to lay out the measurements. I don't even, and I've dialed in the tape on my table saw. I still use either a tape measure or a ruler on my table saw when I lay it out. But,
Yeah.
But having, a good tape measure, like I said, comparing them to make sure they're good, they're all the same. It's worth it. But yeah, if you're just doing rough dimension stuff, if you're just getting rough measurements, or you need a tape to carry in your truck because when you're going to the lumber yard, the cheap I use these little DeWalt's here, these little 9-footers that have got the clip on one side and magnet on the back. I think these are like $5 or $10 at Home Depot or Lowe's. I keep one in almost every room of my house. There's one stuck to my refrigerator, one in my truck, one in the camper, But for rough stuff, these are great. I prefer the fast caps for.
I have when I go to the sawmill, I have a tape measure for there, and it's just because it's easy. Math is I love math. Don't get me wrong, love it.
We know.
Okay, we all know. Okay, but
brag about it, why don't you, Mr. Smart?
When I'm on the lumber mills, I grab I have 4 quarters. It's a tape measure, and then it's in quarters only.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that way I'm just grabbing quick, and it's just a quick measurement.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 and I can grab my measurements quick, grab my thicknesses quick, and it just makes it easier. That's rough. That's rough dimensions. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Mike brings up a good point too. As long as you're using the same tape measure, I mean, it's going to measure the same. Now, mind you, though, there can be some stipulations into that too. I mean, it shouldn't make a difference unless it needs to be something that's precise measurement that tape is actually wrong.
Like you're doing a built-in or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it can come into a problem. Right.
Which, and that being said, like I've got a buddy that's all he does is built-in.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the way he looks at it is like face frames is what makes a built-in look good, because he builds his face frames on site.
That's right.
And it's always, he said, really, if you looked at any of my built-ins, there's about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch variance on any of the builds, because you never know, because you could take, and I've done it, and we've probably all done it, taking a measurement at one part of the wall, you measure it at the floor, well, then you measure 8 feet up. I've never seen a house that's perfectly square.
You're never going to find one.
No.
I mean, they're not taking the time to square walls up. They're just putting them together.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, only some good contractors that are going to take the time, but most of the time, those are just framers that are coming in and they're getting paid, for the job. They're going to frame it up. Their job is to frame it up. And then once it's done, it's done. So you're not that. I mean, that's why it's good to have.
Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quoted out a job in a $2 million home to do built-ins, and then realized I didn't want to do the built-in. So I gave them a price that, they live in a $2 million house, but apparently they're cheap when it comes to buying stuff.
They always are.
And when I took the measurements in a 8-foot run, so from floor to 8 feet up, there was a 2-inch variance in that wall.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike also brings up, that's what the word I was
storage
trying to look for. Storage sticks.
Storage sticks, yeah.
Most of them are going to come in cabinets. They're going to come in, make the cabinets to a certain size, and then they'll finish it out with trim, trimming, and that'll get cut where you'll never notice that there's a 1/2 inch variance or whatever, most of the time you're not going to be able to put something in that's going to be square unless you built that void and you squared that up.
Yeah. So okay. So we talked. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So we've talked. That's I was going to do the same thing as you're probably pretty much doing right there. We talked about tape measures, and we talked about combination squares. Joey's talked about sanders. What about you, Mustachio? What do you got? What do you got coming as a goodbye?
I don't know. I've been struggling over this all day today. I mean, for me, I kind of, back 10 years ago, I'd watched all the random YouTube people out there that was small at the time. There wasn't a lot of people doing YouTubes and stuff. And you know, I had a super handy friend that was living with me at the time, and just like, oh, I should get a table saw. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, like going back to what BJ was saying about like sourcing where you're gonna find all your tools and stuff. Like maybe you have $200 and you're kind of on the fence. I kind of want to do it. I'm not sure. Facebook Marketplace, heck, Craigslist, offer up those websites where you can buy secondhand stuff. Like make sure look at it closely. Heck, message one of us and say, hey, is this a good deal? Like we've got enough experience between the four of us that we can look at a listing on something and be like, no, that is not, do not get that tool, or that's a good deal, you know. And most of it's local, but you know, sourcing some of those great deals. Like I went to this guy, this older woodworker that was packing his shop up and moving down to Florida, and I went there for maybe a miter saw or something, and I ended up buying like way more. I filled my vehicle up with a ton more than I had originally planned. And you know, like those people that are looking to either get out of it and retire, or maybe they're moving, like those estate sales, stuff like that, to like source your what you need and stuff. I mean, get it for pennies on the dollar, like that. And heck, you might not use that tool for a year, but you paid $5 for it, and that can sit there, and when you get around to needing to use it, like it's there, you got it. But yeah, I agree with all you guys. I mean, you need something to cut.
Ben from Condorosa Creations brought up one on Instagram. It's a circular saw with a straight edge. You know, that,
or what do they call them? Door boards. You know, it was the old fashioned track saw. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's.
I mean, that's if you don't have
any kind of straight edge.
Any kind of straight edge.
If you don't have the budget, how many of y'all start? I started off with a circular saw.
Yeah.
I didn't have the means to go buy a table saw when I first started. So circular. So that's how we seen my grandpa, my dad, everybody. They cut it with a skill saw.
Yeah.
And use a 2x4 as a straight edge. You know, I mean, whatever that works. You can use that to break down material, especially like plywood. I mean, we use that. I mean, that's something that you can get fairly cheap nowadays. A circular saw, they're all pretty decent. I mean, you know, there's some better than others, but that's a good one to start off with. You know, that's not going to break the budget. You know, a circular saw, I think, is one to get your feet wet with before you go buy a table saw. Because I think on a table saw, you know, there's some stuff, and they market these saws, and people have expectations of being able to rip a 4x8 sheet of plywood on some of these saws, and they're not stable enough. It's actually more dangerous to do it than just putting it on some sawhorses and using a circular saw with the straight edge. In my opinion.
Yep.
You know,
so I agree 100%.
Some of those,
those job site saws, they're great, but you try to run a 4x8 sheet of plywood through it, it's going over.
No, I disagree. I had the Bosch job site. I cut all my French cleats on.
Well, maybe the Bosch. I'm talking the Ryobi one that I had. I ended up bolting it to my workbench just because. That thing. Hey, it was an aluminum top, like it's plastic. They're I think the whole saw together weighed less than 50 pounds. You know, so I'm going to throw out another thing. You know, if you're looking to get into this hobby or whatever, look up in your area to see if there's like a maker shop or not a maker shop, a maker space.
Maker space,
you know? Yeah. I mean, you might, you know, okay. I think my local maker space, it's like $50 a month or something, 50 or $100 a month. but most of them, like I know my local one, they've got the 3-horse saw stop. They've got a 16-inch joiner or something, a freaking massive, helical head planer, CNCs. They've got a metal shop. Like, you could get access to a lot of stuff, and then if you really enjoy it, okay, cool. Start buying some stuff for the house. And that gives you that really, really easy, level entry to it. If you have that ability.
And
I know not everybody does.
Also, to add to that, Joey, if you do have a makerspace around you, I think a lot of them have the different. There's a small metal shop. There's a welding area and stuff. Like, if you become a member of that, like maybe some person will be like, oh yeah, if you want to come here Wednesday at 7 or something, I'm going to be putting this together. You can just kind of shadow me or something, and they'll teach you some stuff, and maybe after you work with that person for a few times, maybe you'll be like, all right, I don't want to do any more woodworking. Like, let's get into this metal fabrication. This is cool. You might explore, you might learn something that you didn't even know you had a passion for,
Yeah. So, and I just want to touch on this real quick. This is how I thought about this whole segment that we had talked about, is I broke it down into sections. You know me, I think about stuff. And so I brought it out into
at least one of us does.
I broke it down into measurements and squares. What tools do you need to be able to do that, right? And then I broke it down into straight cuts, circular cuts or curve cuts, finish an edge, so that'd be either sanding or rounding it over. How do you do that? And then painting or finishing it. That's how I broke my segments down into. And so I think we've kind of hit the measurement and the square portion of it. We've hit the straight portion of it. What's the cheapest thing that you guys can think of to cut the curve cuts?
Bandsaw. Or a jigsaw.
That's what I went
jigsaw
with. Is a decent
jigsaw.
A decent jigsaw. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, and that's what I went with was a jigsaw, because you can make, I mean, the name's in it, but I mean, you can make so many jigs for the jigsaw that'll make it so that you can keep repeatable cuts. Now, I know one of the worst things that you can find, and people don't look at this, is they say, oh, I got a jigsaw. Is that it's a deflection. So to keep it off, it pulls it off square, right? So finding a good one that doesn't pull it off square. Sorry, I got a wiggle worm in my hands. So which and I know there's only really one or two brands out there that keep it square. For the most part, what brands have you all found that you use?
As far as a jigsaw or blade?
Yes. Jigsaw, blade, whatever, to keep it squared up.
I haven't found a blade that is gonna stay square. Excuse me.
The only one that I've used now. You good?
Breathe, Joey. Breathe, Joey. It's okay. Breathe. We love you.
The only, because I started out with the rigid jigsaw, and if you were cutting anything more than a half an inch, it was it would deflect, and that's why I bought the Festool. And after talking with Jason last week, I tested it out, and 2-inch walnut, it did not deflect. I'm not saying it's a perfect 90, but it's a whole heck of a lot straighter than that rigid could have ever imagined being.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I got the Milwaukee M18 the barrel, because most jigsaws are like top.
That's the old style. Yeah, the new ones are all barrel style.
Yeah, the newer barrel style from Milwaukee. Oh man, I like that a lot, because I made a big mustache sign. I want to say it's about 48 inches wide, and that was oak. I want to say it was 8/4.
Oh, wow.
And that Milwaukee jigsaw, because I had a bunch of like up and
Yeah.
down and curves and everything on the mustache and stuff, and for the most part that blade stayed true, like
But-
90.
And here's the other part to look at. How many people are honestly going to be cutting something that thick with a jigsaw?
Not a lot, I bet.
I would think 1 inch at the maximum. Most people are going to be cutting stuff out of plywood, 3/4 or less. So I don't think the deflection's that big of an issue, but it still can be an issue.
Yeah,
So
I have
go ahead, Joey. Yeah, I want to hear.
I
what
have
you
a
gotta say.
I have a Makita that I really like. That's been really, and I have a Festal that I haven't tried, and I got some blades, and I'm curious to see how that does, because any jigsaw that I've ever used will start wandering on you.
Yeah.
That's just me. God, dang it!
So
got a tickle in my throat. Go ahead, Matt.
so this is what I came up with. I use a jigsaw for 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch piece of wood. Okay.
Mhm.
And I cut it and I make a pattern. Then I place it down on what I want to cut. And I use a router with a trim,
Flush trim.
God,
Flush
flush
trim
trim bit.
bit.
Yes. That's what I use, because I have, like you guys, have found this problem. I cannot find a piece that can cut it at a 90-degree angle ever. But I want to be able to cut circles. So I use my circle or my jigsaw to make in smaller pieces, because then my 90 is more true. Of course, sanding it to make sure I get right to the edge. And then I
Yeah.
come back through with my router, and my router is my next segment into my next bit. But that's what I use. And so I think that a jigsaw is essential, but knowing what to use it on is more essential.
Yep.
Because it's never, it just, that blade just wanders way too much to be able to make it, because of the grain, because of how you're pushing it,
Yeah.
because of how you're trying to turn it, because the blade's too thick, or whatever it is. Okay. It's just not going to go the way you want it to go. So I agree with all y'all that it doesn't matter which one, whatever one you're more comfortable with, but using a smaller thickness, then you don't have to worry about the 90 as much, because then you come back through with your flush trim bit and you are literally cutting into what you need. I think the router is the better way to go.
Well, plus
Yeah.
let the jigsaw do the work.
Of course.
Don't muscle that sucker right through. Like let the blade do its job. Make sure it's sharp, obviously, but like I've caught myself doing that before. I'm just like, you get whatever.
Yeah.
So
that's my thought on that.
Yeah.
But go ahead, DJ. What were you
So
gonna say?
jumping on the curves and everything. So I did say bandsaw at first. So I'll throw this out here. And anybody that's followed me for a time knows I love.
Don't say it.
Oh, where's this going?
Can I mute him?
You sure can, and I would not be mad at you if you did.
Okay. Anyways, I love a good bandsaw, and I have said for years, and I say it because I did it before I ever upgraded my table saw from the Ryobi, job site or whatever the heck saw I had. I bought a really nice bandsaw. Now, I'm a big proponent of saying that a good quality, well-tuned bandsaw will cut circles and lines around a table saw all day long. Yes, I get the argument, oh, well, you can't cut, plywood with the bandsaw. I'm not cutting plywood with my table saw. I'm using a track saw. You know, I'm not running 4x8 sheets of plywood through my bandsaw. But you know, when it comes to cutting rough lumber, bandsaw is safer than a table saw. If you're resawing, and I've heard people say, "Oh, well, you can resaw with the table saw." Well, yeah, but you're losing a ton of material.
Yeah.
If you're resawing with the table saw, you know, then I can also, if I want to, I can cut circles, I can cut curves, I can cut this. You know, you can cut a great, you know, and if you want to cut and I've tested it, I've got a sled for my bandsaw. I've cut a very nice glue joint on my bandsaw using a really good blade, and it worked. You know, now was it as good as running through a joiner? No, of course not. But I think that if, you know, before you go spend $2,000-$3,000 on a really nice table saw, go get you a really nice bandsaw. I think I think it'll add a lot to the shop. And you can find good bandsaws on, you know, secondhand pretty regularly. You know, that's just my
and I agree with you. There's great places for a bandsaw, and bandsaws can be tuned to do really, really good stuff. Okay, but for repeatable, faster cuts, for the stock that it needs to be, okay, not resawing, bandsaw is the way to go. I completely agree with that. If you're tuned up for it and you have the right blade for it, and the right capacity. But for repeatable cuts, for stock material, I don't care if it's plywood. I don't care if it's, you know, 4/4. Okay. Yeah. I think table saw is the way to go. But if I'm doing deeper cuts, and if I'm doing circles, or if I'm doing, you know, any kind of resawing, I think bandsaw is the way to go. I think there's a tool for every purpose. And I do believe that what you're saying is true. A bandsaw can be used just like a table saw.
Yeah.
Is it as accurate? I don't believe so. I believe it's close. I think it's very close. And I think that it especially if you have thicker stock, I think it's better to use the bandsaw, because you can do a thicker stock cut with it. But I think that a table saw, if I'm just going 4/4, I'm using the table saw every single time, because I'm going to get a repeatable cut.
But you also look at the waste of a table saw, because, like, for instance, I do all my edge banding, I cut on my bandsaw. You know, because if you're having to cut a ton of edge banding out of a 4-inch piece, you're going to get almost, I wouldn't say twice as much, but you're going to get quite a bit more out of that bandsaw cut than the table saw. So there's less waste at the end of the day. But no, table saw, and I'm not saying don't go buy a table saw, go buy a bandsaw. I'm just saying, I think if you've already got a table saw that's working for you, that does what you need it to do, and you're wanting to upgrade to that next big expensive tool, you're finally deciding, all right, let's spend some money in this, you know, hobby, go buy you a good bandsaw, whether it be a Harvey, a Laguna, whatever. Just go get a good quality bandsaw. Grizzly.
I'm a big fan of my Grizzly.
I love
and
mine.
I've had other bandsaws, but I say right off the bat that Grizzly should automatically come with the bearings instead of the push guides.
Well, it depends on which. It depends on which saw you buy, right? You know, you get what you pay for, right? But let's take it back a little bit, right? Because we're talking about the absolute beginner, and and not, you know, that's a little more advanced on what we're getting at, going off in a different direction.
$3,000 bandsaws.
But you know, but for the absolute beginner, what's the majority of the stuff that you're probably going to do are just, you know, around the house projects. Like let's just say the wife's going to ask you, well, I want a snowman. You know, I want, you know, something yard decorations for holidays and stuff like that. Simple things. And I agree. Bandsaw should be not right on the list at the beginning. I would say a table saw. That's where you get into those contractor style saws, or a circular saw, or a jigsaw, like we've discussed. Now, did somebody say something?
I I know we can mute you, BJ. Come on, bud.
Here, so I can do this. So if you want to buy, you can get a scroll saw. It's a great entry level tool.
Am I still muted? I don't want to say
No.
something inappropriate.
Boo.
After
So
show.
just-
You're welcome. You're welcome, JP.
Yeah. That's just hideous. Let's talk about a chop saw or a miter saw.
Miter saw, yeah.
So I when I first started off, I went and picked up a Harbor Freight chop saw. Again,
Mhm.
that's what I had. I think my dad had I don't know what he had, Milwaukee or not a Milwaukee. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant to this. But I started off with the Harbor Freight one. Now, was it square? Was it good? No. I mean, you could tune it and you get it. And this was way back then. I mean, what was that brand? It's the one my dad had. Oh my gosh. And it wasn't sliding.
What color was it?
Freaking Delta. How did I go wrong?
Yeah.
That's
Delta
what they
Rockwell?
had. A Delta.
Porta Cable and Delta.
Yeah.
and Boss.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are all
Porta
the same,
Cable.
all the same brand.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but I started off with the Harbor Freight one back in whenever it was when I started like just dabbling in this stuff. Other than when I started getting back
And
into it.
That's a
and that-
completely different Harbor Freight than what it is now. Tool wise.
Mhm.
Yeah, because back then, I mean, we could talk about Harbor Freight. That could actually be a topic within itself of the different things about that, and that would be a good one because I do like Harbor Freight. I like to go over there and buy stuff.
Definitely not.
What was that?
Jumping
Oh,
into
that-
a radio alarm saw.
Radio-
No.
No.
I have one in the shop next door that it has its purpose. I'm not going to get into that yet. That
Yep.
Just leave that alone.
Okay.
But a chop saw. So what did y'all start off with? I'm just curious. Did y'all have one when y'all started? Or?
My first one was a hand-me-down Ryobi before I got my sliding Ryobi, and it was the old blue Ryobi, and I think it was a 10-inch. My dad had bought it to do all the trim in our old house, and when he moved, he's like, "Here, I don't need this piece of junk anymore. You can have it." And I mean, it worked. It's just you could only cut so much, and that's why I got the slider, and that was a Ryobi, and then honestly, I don't see a huge need for the sliders as much anymore.
No, unless you're doing super wide material,
Yeah.
like the slider it's not really needed.
I pull mine out maybe once a month, twice a month. My miter saw.
You're married, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Alrighty.
For
Moving on.
for me, I got the Craftsman. I got the Craftsman as my first miter saw, maybe $25 or something. And that went so far. I ended up getting the Bosch. It wasn't the fancy one with like the articulating arms, but it was like the sliding miter saw with the barrels on the back, which I absolutely hated. Like you have to set that so far from
You
the
gotta
wall.
build your workbench 4 feet deep just to fit the saw. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the when those barrels like go all the way back and stuff, like, oh, that's just so terrible. But I upgraded to the Delta, which I think the Delta and the DeWalt the Delta and the Rigid are
So
the
you got
same.
you
are
got
the
the
same
Delta.
saw.
What is it, the Delta Cruiser or whatever?
Cruiser.
Oh.
I have the Cruiser 2. So
Oh.
it's got like the little light. It's like a shadow. So it has, instead of like a laser on where the blade's gonna cut, it's basically just a light over the blade that kind of like puts a
Okay.
shadow on the workpiece. I love that saw. I got the 12-inch. Super happy with it. It came in.
Ben brought up a good deal on Instagram, Matt. He said you just punch the wall and make a hole in it so you can put it up against the wall.
There you go.
I don't live in California where I can just like have open holes in the wall and
Put in the
be
hole in
warm.
the wall. Be a man. Quit crying about it.
Oh,
Anyhow,
So
sorry to
so
get you off track. I just had to throw that in.
no, I didn't have anything else.
He's being a dork over there.
So my first one was a Porter cable. Of course, I was a big Norm Abram fan, so that's what he had. So that's what I got. But what I did understand off my first miter saw was that the saw that you get, you want to make sure that it is adjustable, so that way you can put it within square. Because if it's not square, you might as well just throw the thing in the garbage, because that's the whole purpose of it. Now, I don't use a miter saw for find last measurements unless it is a for molding, crown molding, something like that. Yeah, something like that. That's the only thing I use it for a finish cut. Anything else that I use mine for, it's on my bench, and all I use it for is a rough cut. So I'm cutting all of my lumber to get it down so that I can mill it, so I can get it all squared up, and then I can hold back and bring it to final dimension. But I'm not using but I do still want it to be square. So if you find a saw, I remember looking at the Harbor Freight, the very first one that I saw of theirs, and it wasn't adjustable. And I went, that's definitely not what I want. And Porter Cable had the first one. Norm went through this whole instructional guide about how to square it all up and what bolts to take loose. And I went, well, there's the instructions. It's on TV. Yeah. I now know how to do that. So that's why I bought that one.
Yeah. I mean, again, just like Mike said, my first one was a Harbor Freight 12-inch slider, and I still have it up top. I mean, I don't use it anymore, but it's there. I mean, probably get rid of it. But after that, I upgraded to the DeWalt 12-inch, like everybody else. Pretty much, it's popular. It's a popular big box store brand, and it's decent and it's good. I mean, I finally found a good video on getting that thing tuned, because I had so many problems trying to tune that thing to be accurate. And I finally, thank God for YouTube University. There's a guy that it was so easy. I was like, really?
Yep.
Went right to it and did it, and it was done. And I was like, dude, really? I fought that dang thing forever.
Yeah.
And it just a quick video, this guy shot, and I was like, wow.
Well, okay.
But
so
let me no way.
Let me throw this out. If you don't have the room for a miter saw, what would you recommend? My recommendation is a table saw sled.
Yes.
Who is it? Bruce Ulrich.
Yep.
He has it. I think he just
Brudaddy.
he just got a miter saw after being in his house for a couple years now. And
really?
He was using table saw sled. Is it like table saw sled or a circular saw jigsaw to break down rough lumber?
Yeah, I mean that's the easiest way to do it, is just a speed square and a skill saw. Yeah.
Because I'm like you, Matt. Like my miter saw is rough cuts, and then I'll go throw it on my table saw sled because I've got it dialed in just about dead nuts to right. Dead to right. Or what? I can't talk again.
Yeah, just do your 5-cut method. You get that thing dialed in within 100,000th of an inch. Yeah.
And then and it's you're good to go. And there's been times where I've just I'll leave that miter sled on my table saw and just use it constantly because I'm not doing stuff that needs long cuts through the table saw. And I'll catch myself thinking, it's like, man, I could free up a lot of room in the shop if I got rid of that miter saw.
Yeah.
But then there's times where it's
Blasphemy.
Then there's times where it's like I'll go 2 months without touching the table saw because I'm rough cutting stuff for the CNC or laser or whatever else, and it's like, no, I really need this miter saw. It really comes in handy.
It's so much faster just to have
Yeah.
it set up
Oh,
if you have it dialed in.
Yes.
Okay. Because if you don't have it dialed in, that's why it's inconvenient for most people. But that's the first. So when I bring materials in, I bring them in. I already have my cut sheet ready to go, and I'm cutting, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch longer than what I need. And you're dropping it on, and you're cutting it all your stuff, making all your stack, and it makes it so much easier to get down to rough cut dimensions, so you can start milling.
Yep.
I just
want to announce Wild Chicken Woodworks on Instagram said he started off with the Delta 10-inch that he got for $11 at a yard sale. And he likes it better than the Technical Apex. So
wow.
There you go. So since we're on this right here and we kind of covered this, what is your process? I want to know what everybody's process is. As you bring it into the shop, how do you process it? I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but I'm just curious. Are you going to go to the chop saw first? Or if it's sheet goods, you're going to break it down with whatever. Right?
So what are we working on? What are we working on?
Let's talk with just lumber, like 4/4. What is your process going to be as it comes in?
So I'm bringing it straight into the chop saw, miter saw, my glide saw is what I have, the Bosch glide saw. And I'm breaking all my goods down into, now, like I said, I usually use about a 3/4, maybe 1 inch bigger than what I need, but I'm making sure that my cuts are, so you make your, and people forget to do this all the time. Okay. When this stuff's coming off a mill, it's being cut, and it's cut as it's moving. It's not square. No. So you make your very first cut should be on a, if you're using like 2S or a 3S material, it should be, you have your back against it, and you make your very first cut on the very tip.
Let me pause you real quick. Yes, Mike. Yes, we're acclimating the wood to our shops first. That should be the first step.
Okay.
Yeah. Continue.
There. And then I'm making my first cut off the very beginning of it because I know it's not square.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm pulling all my cuts, and I usually have a stop block for repeatable cuts. Any kind of things that I have repeatable, like I said, cutting a little bit longer than normal, and then I stack all my wood up. Okay. Sometimes I don't wait for it to be acclimated to my shop. I cut it, let it sit, and then become acclimated to my shop because I'm already cutting an inch longer. I know it's not going to shrink up an inch. It ain't cold in my shop. So I have an air conditioned shop. Okay.
I'm going to leave that alone. Just go.
Okay. Yeah. You should have let it alone. It would have been funnier. But anyways, so and then I can actually let all my stuff sit. Stop laughing, Joey. By God. But that way everything can be set up in my shop, ready to go. Then I can mill it up, hit it in my joiner, go through. Once I get it on my joiner, I can get one face done. I can pull it through get the other side of my joiner done, and I have both sides, making sure everything's squared up because I had to acclimate it to my shop if it was wet or anything of that nature. And then I'm running through my planer, and then through my table saws, my last cut to make sure everything's to the dimensional size.
Well, see, and now do you prefer to use rough lumber?
So I try.
What you have access to.
Well, I have access to 4S if I want it, or at least it's 3S. It's 3S.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's left wild on one side. Even though you get it that way, if you pull it out and you actually pull your square to it, it's rough to me. It's still not. It's a rough. It's one time through a 25-inch plane that they've ran it through and making sure that the thickness is correct. You got one joint that should be correct.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm doing it, because literally once you let it acclimate to your shop, it's still going to do a little bit of movement. And so you got to do it again. Okay. And if you don't, and you go to like make up, I don't care if it's a cutting board, and next thing you know, your cutting board's doing the old the old twist and shake. Yeah. It just ain't gonna work. So you got to hit it one more time and you'll get better results.
And I'd honestly say my process is the same. You know, if I have to cut it down, depending on how long we're working with. But honestly, I've gotten to the point now, if I'm doing long stuff, I'm getting it S3S and then, you know, joining one edge and then run it through the table saw before I glue it up. Just because it's the time, just because of the planer I have running maple or hickory through it, I just can't, because I've got that DeWalt 735. Is that it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
with the 13-inch planer. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Sheelix head on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only run maybe 20 board feet through it before it overheats and shuts off. Now I think that's because I think the thermal switch is going bad because it's getting worse.
Oh, I have that same issue with mine.
It used to be I could run like 100 board foot through it and it would shut off. Now it's down to about 20. And yeah, so I just need to replace the thermal switch.
We got a question here.
Okay, what we got? S3S. S3S is finished, is dimensioned on 3 sides. S2S is dimensioned 2 sides, and it's usually top and bottom, and the edges are not jointed. And then S4S, which I don't know any lumber yards that will just do that. The lumber yard that I go to now, it's an extra 20 cents a board.
Home Depot will. You buy that stuff from Home Depot. It's supposed to be S4S. Okay. Anybody that can see, I got the quotation marks up. Okay. But it's not.
No.
Okay.
There's a cabinet. Well, they're a lumber yard, but they're finished lumber, and it all comes in S4S. But you talk about absolutely freaking expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you have the tools, it's just a little extra time to do it. That's for somebody that doesn't want to mess with it, that they're probably going to install cabinets that are going to just be, it's ready to go. You know, you just cut it to the size you need, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Legos. Yeah. I mean, but when you don't have the tools, then that's an option, right? You know.
But see, and I've bought S4S that was not square. It was a freaking parallelogram.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, great. Okay, I paid you an extra $1 a board foot at the end of the day for this S4S lumber, and now I've still got to spend half a day or a day milling it and losing even more thickness. You know.
Hence why, and it is quite 90% of my time, even by IS, I'm buying S3S. I am cutting it dimension, I'm letting it set up, and then I'm running it through my joiner and planer. Just because you can't trust. I have a really good supplier, really good, but still, they're running through thousands and thousands of board feet a day, and they're setting it all up on pallet and getting it ready to go out. It's just not going to be perfect. And if you think it is,
you're going to find out later how imperfect it really
exactly.
was.
Yeah.
When your face frame has got a crook to it that goes all the way around, you're going to figure it out real quick. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, it's just like, you know, I can speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for y'all, but you know, when I started out doing this, everything was construction grade lumber because that was the easiest thing for me. I was 10 minutes from a Home Depot. You know, and at that time when I started, everything on YouTube was, you know, someone had mentioned in the chat Craig jig. Everything at the time was pocket hole, you know, rustic tables, and you know that's just what I was doing at first. And
well, I mean, but this
you
hobby,
learn real quick.
This hobby, you graduate, right? You start off with that dimensional lumber from the big box store, and most of the time you're doing a butt joint. You're not doing anything, you know, that is, would say now to this point, right? So then it's pocket holes, the easy stuff that's simple. I still use pocket holes on stuff. This cabinet for the 3D printer did it. I mean, it's quick and easy, right?
Anybody that says they don't use it lying. Anybody that says they don't use 100% lying.
Yeah, I mean, and there's ways to hide them to where you don't even know, you can't even tell, and you can make some really nice pieces using it. I'm not going to knock that Craig jig pocket hole at all. I mean, it's good. I have a bunch of different versions of them, and I love using it. But you graduate as you progress through this hobby, and that's when you start fine tuning your craft, and you learn different things like different joints and dovetails, and you start wandering into those different things, right? I don't know where the heck I was going with this because I had a Matt moment here. But he tends to rub off on us.
Yeah.
Where the hell was I going with this? I don't know.
Dovetails.
Anyhow, dovetails.
No. DuckTales? What?
DuckTales.
No.
Ooh. But no, and back to that question that was asked in the chat. Yes, I think Craig jig is the how about here it is? How about a Craig jig for the beginner?
Come on, our Patreon right there. That's our Patreon guy right there.
Yeah, for the beginner. I don't even say for the beginner.
I use it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say at this point I have what's the all-in-one Craig jig with the handle that you pull down.
Yeah.
The fancy one.
The Foreman. Yes.
Yeah.
I got the Foreman. And now, granted, if I just need to cut two Craig
there's
jigs,
where the money is right there. Yeah.
Yeah. If I just need to cut 2 or 3 pocket holes, I'm grabbing just the regular 7. I forget what the model number is. It's great. The dust collection's great on them. I 3D printed an adapter to go to my extractor. But yeah, if I'm cutting, like I did a project about a year ago where we added it up, we cut 930 pocket holes when it was all said and done. And I was like, yeah, the Craig Foreman is a win. But I think pocket holes have a place in everything. Hell, my first workbench, outfeed table, whatever, it was all pocket holed together.
One of my favorite places to use the Craig jig. I've cut dominoes. I've got everything lined up exactly where I want to, but I don't have the ability to clamp the way I want to.
Yeah,
I will use the Craig jig with dominoes and then pull it tight. I'll glue everything, but I'm pulling it tight with the Craig jig.
They're phenomenal.
But you really don't need to. You really don't need to glue it. Honestly,
no, you don't. But because I use the domino, and I have dominoes joints in it, I'm gluing my dominoes already.
Yeah,
and then I'll just pull it together with my Craig jig in between.
I've done that.
It works great.
Yeah,
I've done that recently.
Yeah.
No, I think Craig jigs. I mean, any of the pocket hole brands. My preference is Craig jig. I like their product. I think every shop should have some kind of pocket hole tool in it.
I agree. Yeah,
because it will save your. And that's the thing. It's also one of those things where it's like, oh crap, I can't reach this thing to join it together. Yeah, you could toenail it or toe screw it, which is essentially just it's
a pocket hole jig.
Pocket hole. You want to make it look a little fancier? Throw a pocket hole jig on there, and do that. I mean, heck, you can. There's a guy I saw on Instagram that made a 3D printable version of the Craig to cut pocket holes. So if you need one in a pinch, go 3D print one.
I just think that how they progress with their pocket hole. I just love the pump one. I think that's a 731 or 7.
The newest one, yeah.
The newest one,
yeah.
Whatever
it is, I have now.
Model
I love it.
I love that thing. Just remember when you set the depth, make sure you set it on your drill bit.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you'll drill through the bottom of it, and don't ask me how I figured that out. But
you're gonna have a bad time.
You're in a hurry.
Based on experience, or no?
And pocket holes do have their place, because you're not going to use pocket holes on like your walnut or something like that if you're just building something. But you are going to use it if I do a face frame. So I did a face frame in here of a huge cabinet I built out of ash, but I still use the back side from the plywood to the ash to pull the face frame in. I used the Craig jig.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Mike said, when people used to talk, as he would say, when they used to curl their lips when you were using dowels instead of mortises, and
Mhm.
you see a lot of people now using some of that stuff. I did it on my workbench top. You use that stuff for aesthetics, like to make things look like you'll drill through and stick a dowel in there, and that leaves
Yeah.
a different grain of wood. So when you put a finish, it's just there's a lot of different uses for it. I think each and every one of those has a place still, just depending on what you're doing and how you want to incorporate them. I don't see nothing wrong with the dowel. Now you're not going to use that for something that's going to have a lot of stress. That's not the way to go, because
Mm-mm.
that will shear. That doesn't have. That's not something that you would use for an application like that. But but Mike over there at Broken Lead. Why do I keep messing that up? He said,
Words are hard.
get words are hard today. Get the foreman and don't look back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's worth it. I really do. Yeah, it takes a little more to set up on the foreman, depending on what you're, if you're cutting, 3/4 inch plywood or whatever. But once it's set up, it is just bam, bam, bam all day long, and it's
Well,
it's so easy to use.
I think it's the same thing we talked about with the miter saw. Once you set it up, then you're fine.
You are. It's it's
exactly.
Glorious.
Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna have to set it up. So I think it's like a great. So fasteners, how are we pulling things together? So I think Craig jig was a great one, and it's a lot of money, but we already mentioned it, and I think it works great. And that's the domino.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, it's not out of everybody's price range, but if you are going to start doing woodworking that you are going to connect joints and you don't know how to do, or you were learning, or sometimes it's just better or easier, the domino is great. Biscuit joiner is great, and I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye somebody said something about the biscuit joiner. I haven't read it all the way yet, but the biscuit joiner is great for keeping things in line. Okay.
Yep.
But it's not a structural joint. Okay. The domino is it's better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's completely a structural joint. It's not like I'd sit there and, build a staircase out of it, but, but I think it's great for lining things up and giving you a little bit more structure.
Yeah.
And, I used biscuits for years. In fact, I still do. And I love using biscuits in face frames because I'll line everything up with my biscuits in my Craig jig and my domino. I just use a combination of joints to be able to make sure I got everything lined up. But I fought it for a while, but that was the first Festool piece I ever bought was the domino. And I never looked. I love it. I love it. And I love doing joinery. I love doing dovetails. I love doing box joints. I love all that stuff. But the domino is phenomenal.
I would say
I'll agree with that. And what's there's another one out there that's like a biscuit, but
Lamello.
That's another one but I mean, I think that's even more expensive than the domino.
I believe it's somewhere close to it.
But I mean, it's the pieces that you use that's the expensive part.
Yeah. Those, I forgot
but that's
what
also
they're called, but
nice. But if you're wanting to do takedown furniture or something like that, or just gluing it together, because I've seen some people put those in there, and then when it locks together, it holds it enough to where it's going to give enough pressure for the glue to adhere.
I think Jason on one of his videos, he used that as part of a clamping, the way to clamp it once it glued.
Yeah.
That's used to secure it, but it holds it there. And I mean, it can be used that way, and it can be used to where you can take it back apart if you need to get a face frame off.
Okay, so you said clamping. Let's talk clamping. Harbor Freight again. I have dozens of those 6-inch or 8-inch F-style clamps.
Well,
from Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight has stepped up their game a little bit.
Yes.
Well,
Okay. It used
but-
to be like their stuff would twist and turn, and they're like, "Oh, put a
Mhm.
3/4 inch piece of wood in there to try to
Yes.
stabilize
yes.
it." Okay, but they have stepped up their game a little. They do have parallel
Parallel
clamps.
clamps, yeah.
They have some that are pretty decent. And there's some people that have done. If you watch YouTube University here, you'll find that there's some people that have done some research on how well they do, how much they deflect, and whether or not they hold up based off
Yep.
the price. Because if you look at the price of those Harbor Freight clamps, they're a third to a half to a third of the price of what you would pay for a better brand. Okay, or
True.
with that has less deflection, but I mean, at the end of the day, are you trying to put 500 pounds of force to it, or are you trying to put 200 pounds of force to it? Which
Well,
one is it?
Well, actually, just to be honest, you shouldn't be putting that much force to anything
No.
when you're clamping up a glue joint. It should just be enough to get squeezed out, and you should stop.
Well,
You
and I
agree?
agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But if you didn't
Unless-
start
now-
that
now,
first
unless
process
you're
that we
trying-
talked about,
Right? Yeah, and you're trying to force things into submission to get them straight. then maybe you need to put an impact on it. But
Old 2x4s from Home Depot. You gotta beat them down a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit.
I've had some of them that I had to straighten out from a U to straight. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and that. But
But-
I started off with the Harbor Freight clamps. I had a bunch of them. But
Well,
again, they have their pros and they have their cons.
yeah.
It
Lifetime
goes back to,
guarantee. That's a
can you-
huge pro.
yeah. Well, can you get by with them? Sure, you can. Did I have some fail on me? Yep, I had some fail, but they are good. Hell, if you even want to talk about clamp, their parallel clamp that they have, that blue and orange one,
Mhm.
that's similar to the Bessie, similar to the Pony Jorgensen.
Yes,
It's a decent clamp. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's
no.
just a
It's a
stout.
clamp.
It's a clamp,
Oh,
and
well,
it'll clamp.
I think the study they did, that's why I brought up that 200, 500 pound thing, is it was great at 200 pounds, but if we get it up to 500 pounds of pressure, and I'm like, what Hulk Hogan do you have in your shop twisting that thing to 500 pounds?
Is that why the Bessie ones have the hex nut in the end of the handle so you can
Yeah.
put a freaking
Yeah.
hex wrench on it? No. But so looking at that, and I think the clamps that get slept on the most are pipe clamps.
I love pipe clamps.
3/4 inch pipe or 1/2 inch pipe. Yeah, you're not getting as much torque out of the 1/2 inch pipes, but man, I've got a bunch of because I needed some longer clamps, and if you need a 8-foot long clamp for some reason,
Mhm.
it's a whole lot cheaper to go buy that cast iron pipe versus buying an 8-foot long parallel clamp. I mean, I could imagine what an 8-foot long parallel clamp would cost. I mean, you probably have to get 2 of them and get the joining system for it.
Yeah.
But
But
I mean,
they have. I love pipe clamps. The only thing that you lose on them is your depth, the throat depth, right? Like where you can go to an F-style clamp, But
Mhm.
again,
But doing combination of clamps.
yeah, you
works too.
throw clamps on the top, throw clamps on the bottom.
right,
Mhm.
right, and you
And
can
you're
get away with
good.
it. And of
Yeah.
course, if you need to, like BJ was saying, if you need to get that extra length, go buy a coupler and couple 2 pieces of pipe together,
Yeah.
and now you can. It's endless of how far you
Exactly.
can go with those
Mhm.
things, right? Mike brought up a good deal. He was like, he said, Bessie shouldn't have put the Allen socket in the K bodies because I grabbed the Allen wrench and give it just that little bit more, and it's like, I'm guilty of it, man. I clamp the heck out of stuff, and sometimes I'm like, why am I putting this? I'm over here killing it. I'm like, I don't need
There's
to.
no
And a lot of
glue
times,
left in that joint.
yeah, you take it apart and it falls right back apart. You take the clamps off, and a lot of times though, if you look at it, if you're not alternating your clamps, you'll end up pulling the
You
wood.
pull it out of square, yeah.
I always do
so-
at least, if I've got 3 clamps across the bottom, I'll do at least 2 clamps across the top.
Yep.
And then clamps on every joint, which I 3D printed the bridges. Have y'all seen those? Yeah, it's
Madison Garden.
No, instead of putting a clamp right there on the joint, it moves the pressure point out about an inch.
Yes.
Onto
Now I know
either,
what you're
and so
talking
you can clamp in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I 3D
Who-
printed
who-
some of those. Yeah.
Somebody, was it Miles Craft
Woodpecker.
or some?
No,
some
woodpeckers had them, and then somebody put out a file for it. Now, I did when I printed them at 100% infill. But I mean, you're not putting 200 pounds of pressure on them, but it's just enough to keep the ends of the boards flat,
Right.
With each other. That's all that it's there for.
Mike calls it the Woodbender 3000. That's what he calls it. Best clamps
Wood-
on this.
So I think that another thing that we need to discuss, we talked about the clamps. So we're getting ready to put a sanding on this thing.
Mhm.
One of the things I think that is needed, and I don't think you need a big, huge, robust one. I think that they make plenty of smaller versions called trim sander or trim routers out there that I think are a necessity.
100%.
Just to finish the edges, to get a good finish before you start sanding.
Yeah, I've got the now, and so here's where I'll also say, because if you're already buying drills and impacts and stuff, you've got a battery system.
Battery system, yeah.
I would, at this point, if I could go back and do it over again, I would have bought the battery powered router, not the plug-in. I think a battery powered trim router is the way to go 100%. That's one thing I will say. Just go ahead and bite the bullet, spend the extra $50 or whatever, and get the battery powered trim router. Whether it's Rigid, Ryobi, Milwaukee, Makita, whatever your battery platform is, get a trim router in that battery platform, and you'll be happy.
Did we touch on that while we're on battery things?
We're touching it now.
Yeah, that's where we're
I just want to mention that if you're gonna pick a battery platform, look into it. Use some of those tools. Try things out. Once I got to a point where I had Bosch batteries. I had Milwaukee. I was just getting into Milwaukee. Then I got Festool, my Traxxas Festool. Like I went completely sideways, and I had Dremel, the Dremel batteries and everything, and like,
oh wow.
Oh, I mean, just stick with one manufacturer.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Now they do make for some batteries crossovers. Okay. I don't know how good or how long they last. I know they did for DeWalt to DeWalt, which would be the DeWalt 18 volt to the DeWalt 20 volt, and then the DeWalt 20 volt to the DeWalt 20 volt flex. They did make
adapters.
Yeah. There's the word. Thank you. Words are hard. I think we need to change the whole name to this whole broadcast to call "Words Are Hard." But anyways,
I think somebody else has a podcast called that.
Oh yeah. I agree with that. I chose DeWalt for my battery platform, and now that I have DeWalt, luckily they have come out with just about everything that I like. I think Milwaukee has a good stock of tools as well, and I think that the whole our system's better than your system and this system, and we're gonna have drills fight each other, and I don't want my drill to fight somebody. I want my drill to drill a hole.
Hey,
I wanted to put the screw in the wood where I wanted
It's
at.
the screw in the basket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy though? I when they put two drills together and do that whole freaking
I think it's
fight to the death. I'm like, what are you proving with that? Which one's gonna knock
proving
a
you got money
that you have money to throw away.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, I think that you need to choose a battery platform. I think it's the battery platform, and then at the end of the day, if you look at the back end of it, they're all batteries are basically made for the same person.
Yeah.
They're all made by the same manufacturer. It's just a
Mhm.
different casing.
pretty much. Well,
I
most of them are owned by the same company, you know, because what is it? Milwaukee, Rigid, Ryobi, somebody else are all under the same brand, and DeWalt and Black and Decker. I don't know the name, but yeah, there's like
I've
2 or
seen
3
that.
main brands, but they own all the other freaking
Yeah.
tools that are out there.
I've seen that. I've seen that
Yeah.
image before, where it's just like, oh, everyone rolls up to this company.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
he just same guts, just orange instead of yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now
Yep.
I will say this: when it comes down to platforms that you're going to buy. So I did my research on what I wanted was DeWalt. And the reason I wanted DeWalt is because of they're a Black & Decker as well. And I have a refurbished shop that's close to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. So if you look in your area, it's in just about every state. You'll have a refurbish area. Now, you won't have another Black & Decker or DeWalt or whatever in your area if you're not in Atlanta, because it might not be in the next couple states, but then they'll be in another state. And so if you check that out, you'll find out who's closest to you. And I think that's the better way to go, because if you want to get your stuff repaired or you want to buy a used that's been refurbished with a new warranty on it tool, it's a good place to go.
Yep.
That's why I did what I did. That's how I started out.
Mike said Apex Tools is the umbrella for a lot of the name brand tools.
Yeah.
I made that same mistake. I've got a bunch of different battery platforms. And mainly now is I've just made, I'm going to stick with just Milwaukee. I like Milwaukee.
Yep.
It, you know, the trim router that we were talking about, I love that battery trim router. It's nice.
That's my go-to. That's my go-to router.
It's a quick stop. Now I do have a Makita corded one that I like. Of course, it's the Makita that everybody uses on their CNC. But those are the when I'm going to reach for a trim router, it's going to be a Milwaukee until the Green Tool Company comes out with one. Then I'll probably get one of them and try it, you know. So
see, I'm like Matt. I love DeWalt, and honestly, my love for DeWalt started because I was at the store one day. There was a DeWalt rep there, and he's like, "Hey, we've got these drills that are like they were last year's top of the line drill and impact driver. The store's got too many of them or something. We're knocking them down to $100 a set." I'm like, okay. Like, and I had the rigid. Y'all remember the rigid 24 volts? They were like the first. It was the first lithium ion battery drills to come out, if I remember correctly. But the hammer drill that they had with that 24 volt battery, I swear it weighed 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, the battery was as big, it was bigger than a freaking softball. It was massive. And the batteries died after like a couple of years, and I needed a new drill. And yeah, I just happened to do that. And now I've got, you know, on the DeWalt platform, I've got a battery powered hot glue gun, a battery powered, shears to trim bushes and stuff, you know, or trees. You know, my dad has the DeWalt chainsaw that he says he absolutely loves, you know, and that's the thing. I'm looking at getting the trim router for him when my rigid trim router dies, but I've also got the rigid batteries too. But I love the DeWalt system. It just works, you know. And they're light. I can run that freaking rigid impact driver all day long, and I don't feel like I'm lugging around a freaking 20-pound dumbbell over my head.
Yeah. Well, guys, how about I think that's a good point to end this. We're getting on the 2-hour mark. A long one. Another good one.
Yeah, it is. That was it was a really good one. I think this is something we can touch on again, and I think that we have a lot of people that were commenting that have made some really good comments, and I'm glad that they were able to share their comments with us. I think it was great.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if you got a topic that you would like us to discuss, send us an email, creativemakerspodcast@gmail.com, and we want y'all's input. I mean, we'd love to talk about something somebody doesn't know, discuss it. You know, maybe we can help y'all out. And if you feel up to it, go check us out at patreon.com/Creative Makers Podcast. And
if you don't reach out to us there, you can also reach us individually. Just DM us. We're, I mean, everybody, but this guy, he's we'll talk to you. Promise.
Yeah, we got all our links are down below in these videos. You can easily find BJ and ask him all the questions that you need.
Yes.
Yes, we will forward all the questions to BJ.
He's tier 1. BJ is tier 1.
I mean, I don't care. Just shoot me a message.
Did you see?
My inbox stays full enough as it is. I'll get back to you eventually.
Send them all to him.
If you send me a message and I don't write back right away, I'm not being rude. There's a lot of.
I just didn't want to answer,
guys. Yeah. Now remember, we're coming up. We're 8 shows away from our 100th episode, and we're going to have a nice giveaway. I think we're going to try to reach out to some other companies out there to see if they're wanting to donate. But we do have some nice prizes already on the docket to give away, and you must be present to win.
That's right.
The way we're going to hold this, so keep
that on your calendar. My wife watch, and then she can win for me.
No,
what?
No, not allowed. Not allowed. Nope. We cannot win our own prizes, Matt. Come on. But and it's going to be U.S. only, U.S. based only giveaway. So it's a big milestone we're going to reach, and we're going to celebrate it nice and give some nice things away for your shop. So make sure you put that on your calendar and join us. Next week, we have Mike with Broken Lead Woodworks coming on the show.
You sure it's not Broken Lead?
Yeah. Good job, Joey.
All right.
So you got it.
Words
yes,
and stuff.
I finally done something right. Getting there. We're getting there. So please come join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and who cares about the West? That's where Ben lives. We don't care about that. So, but anyhow, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We appreciate all the questions. Remember, Creative Makers Podcast @gmail. If you have a topic, hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear. Go ahead.
Leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
Please
10
go
stars.
over there. That helps us out. 10 stars. 10. And if you feel it any to support us, it helps out, helps the show. Head on over to Creative Makers Podcast on the Patreons and sign up. But
heck yeah.
Until next week, we will see y'all. Same time, same place, same beautiful faces.